Oh my, and welcome back. What a weekend it was. Well, ever since like Thursday night, it was like go time. Lots of stuff.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. I mean, that was obviously my birthday weekend, which was super nice. But yeah, from the time of the book launch Thursday night all the way through Friday, I did a little bit of work in the morning and then got surprised with a surprise trip to Key Biscayne down at the Ritz, and then came back on Saturday and then Sunday football game. So it was a weekend packed full of fun for me.
Let's get right into it today because we've got a packed show. You're going to hear Jake do his sports update, which is really cool. But we did not get to wish you a happy birthday on Friday, so we're going to do that this morning. Shout out to you, Mark Nudelberg, 36, never looked so good. Happy birthday. That's all the fun pictures. Shay, please sing him happy birthday.
Okay, happy birthday to. Oh, sorry, you want the actual music. Sorry.
Well done.
Happy birthday to you. Although we wanna celebrate, it's your birthday. And this is a song that we dedicate.
Happy birthday. This is for you.
Boom.
Love it. First of all, having a Saturday birthday is like the greatest birthday because you just milk it for like 5 days. It's like Friday, Saturday.
You milk it anyways. If it's Thursday, it's like, well, the end of the week kind of is gone.
Right. I want it. So happy birthday. Proud of you. There was the weekend yesterday was filled with national days. Cannot not talk about 9/11. Jake, you were 3. Mark, you were 15. 21 years ago. It seems insane. I know exactly where I was, what I was thinking, the whole tragedy. Watched 60 Minutes last night, do a thing on it, and it's surreal. Is all I can say is never ever forget that happened.
Amen. And on the 11th happens to be some really great birthdays as well. It's Andy Hill's birthday. It is Hayden Kassan's birthday. So like tough for those guys to forever have to remember 9/11 on their birthdays, but obviously something that we continue to talk about.
So I don't know how they made this happen, but 9/11 is also National Grandparents Day. Like,
Love that. Oh my God, look at those pictures.
Look at those magnificent human beings that are my direct descendants. And I guess Jake is following the crown. They would not be in line.
Jake's like fifth in line.
I'm fourth in line for the. I'm fourth in line for the throne. I don't know how that makes sense.
That's right.
Kai and Jules are the heir apparent, or Kai is.
Love
That
it.
is correct.
Finally, in the days, it's National Make Your Bed Day. Rule number 2 in my book: get up early, make your bed. We don't need to get into that. Let's talk about the Huddle. The Huddle produces some great stuff. Show me Dan Nelson, who I know is here this morning. Dan is watching the Huddle in Paris, baby.
Yeah, bro. This was a great post. This is from last week, and obviously with the time difference, he wrote a great post about his morning routine with the Huddle. But then him getting the notification that the Huddle was live as he was looking at the Eiffel Tower from across the city of Paris was super cool. Great post. And thanks for taking the Huddle international.
Taking it large. And then you, I know Laura Kuzniski from the True Network. Met her when way back in 2 years ago. I spoke in May. It was like the first speaking engagement after a while. Met her and her husband. Actually played what do they call that? Cornhole. Introduced her to you, and then what do you do with her?
So Laura came into the Get on the Ball Live. She came into our world just the way you should. You should meet people and have conversations with them. We had a virtual coffee together, and I uncovered that her family were big time Pitt supporters. She has a mother-in-law that's like 81 that still goes to the game and sits on the 50-yard line. I know Tyquan Underwood, who is the pass game coordinator and receiver coach for the Pitt Panthers. And so OQP, right? Connect people. And when you know good people, you bring them together. Boom, I connect Tyquan and Lori. Tyquan gets them tickets to the game, gets them down on the field before the game. They got to see a fantastic ball game against Tennessee. And, just good people connected and good things happen. And she put out a really sweet post about it. So great stuff.
Awesome. And then finally, we tell people, man, you can make yourself famous walking through the club section. This dude comes running up next to me, kind of scared the shit out of me a little bit. And he goes, dude, you're the Huddle, man. Gunnar Swanson says hello, and we're saying hello back. Thanks for being part of the Huddle. It was great seeing you yesterday. And you know what I said? Make sure to say hello in the morning. We will shout you out. We did. Great stuff. Great time at the
One more shout out because Julio Roque, I think it was yesterday, received his book and posted on LinkedIn a picture of him in his Huddle shirt with my book. So thank you, Julio. Thank you for the shout out. I hope you enjoy the book, and looking forward to having a conversation about it with you soon.
Awesome stuff. Jake, get ready. We're waking this thing up, and then we got your sports update.
Sports update coming.
Friend Lloyd, you got it right. You can listen and watch this show anywhere, anytime. It's your commitment to make it happen. Jake or Shay, give me some sports update music.
Let's go.
I really do feel like I'm a Sports Center kind of anchor that people have spoken. They want to hear the sports update. So every Monday, if I'm able to announce it, I think I will be here talking about the weekend, giving you kind of an inside look at what we think happened this weekend between, the tactics, the coaches, and any lessons you might learn. There was 3 major sports this weekend. I'm sorry, baseball, I don't really watch, so Shay might have to come on for all you baseball fans. But Friday was an amazing U.S. Open tennis match. Thursday they kicked it off, but Friday was an amazing tennis match between Carlos Alcaraz and Frances Tiafoe, which is the young American. And Frances Tiafoe goes on to win. Carlos Alcaraz goes on to win and is now the youngest number 1 player in tennis history at Rafael Nadal and the other greats. So that was super cool for someone who is in the sport. Of course, Saturday kicked off, sadly, with the Gators losing. And there's a couple of thoughts there. But I really want to talk about the Alabama-Texas game is kind of where I want to start. I think you have 2 programs that are on opposite ends of where they're supposed to be. Texas is in rebuild mode. This was probably their first test. And in college football, you have one opportunity, in my opinion. In college football, the system that they have developed that is different from the NFL, if you lose, your season is pretty much over. It's just the reality. You lose, you then have to win out, hope for other teams to lose. And I would like to hear your opinion on that. But life isn't about that. And we're teaching 18-year-olds that perfection is the answer. And if they don't achieve it, then they're failures.
This is where I think the NFL and college are so very different, because the NFL is built for parity. NFL is built to have equal teams that are battling it out. And in NFL's mind, they love to have every team be 8-8 at the end of the season, and everybody's playing to figure out the seeding at the very end. Whereas college football is built on the exact opposite. It is built on you have to be perfect. You have to take advantage of every single opportunity, which is so much harder because now you're trying to get 18 to 22-year-olds to prepare at a higher level than the NFL is expected to prepare. And that's why, and you look at that game against Texas and Alabama, if you're Texas, you can't afford to not take advantage of opportunities when presented to you, because great teams find ways to win even when they make mistakes. And so if you don't capitalize on every single one, you're not going to be good enough to beat them at the end of the game, which is exactly what happened.
But his press conference was so reassuring because, first of all, he did a great job. That program was a mess. They showed up and played Alabama. Alabama knows they were in a game, but he said, we didn't lose. We ran out of time.
Sure.
And I thought it was a great comment to give the team, like, you guys battled your asses off. Our starting quarterback got mangled, lots of adversity, but we hung in there, we stayed, and it was right there till the end. So I don't know. I had a really good feeling that everybody won. Everybody walked off that field.
Look, I feel the same way looking at the Gators, right? Like, yes, they lost that game, but there's progress in that program. You watch the way they're playing. They're playing at a higher level. They're playing more physical. They're playing with more energy. They're playing a better game. Just because they lost to Kentucky, Mark Stoops has had that game circled on his calendar for the last 8 months. That was a game in his mind for his career. You got to go into Florida. You got to win at some point in order to solidify his legacy at Kentucky. The opportunity was prime for him to do that. I don't take anything away from the progress that Florida is making just because they lost the game.
I like that. Jake,
and
give me an
even
update.
though it comes to wins and losses, before we move on to the NFL,
Sure.
I think it's important to talk about Scott Frost, who repeatedly came within this close of winning. If you make the same mistakes over and over again, it has to fall on you. It doesn't go to the players. Year after year, the continuous things that are happening cannot be accepted. And I think when you look at Saban and you look at all these great coaches that have been around Kirby, they don't allow the issues that happen to compound, right? Alabama had 15 penalties. They're not going to have 15 penalties. They're not going to lose by one. They know what it takes to get over that, and they focus on those rather than, oh, we were close. If Texas can easily go, wow, we were close, we're a really good team, and some team's going to walk in and kick their fucking ass next week, 100%.
You could point to that other team in Texas that lost to Appalachian State, and you could say a lot of the same things about that head coach. You're watching the same story play out again that happened at Florida State. I don't want to take anything away from the fact that they won a championship, but they won a championship in a very different era of college football. The playoff was not there yet. It was the year before the playoff. They walked into an Auburn team that probably shouldn't have been in the national championship because they ended up beating, Alabama on a kick six play, a freak play that they beat Alabama. So that one championship that goes on Jimbo's mantle, which I can't take that away from him. The reality is to create sustained success, you got to be a different level of leader. And you're watching the same thing play out that you saw at Florida State. Lots of talent, lots of players, lots of hype, and then continuously being let down in those scenarios. Definition of insanity. Do the same thing and expect different results.
I think I think it's a leadership lesson when you look at Texas and you look, we came close, and that's great, and we should celebrate that. But let's not forget that we lost. Like, the end of the day, you lost. Or if you're a business that has a goal and you went, well, we set this hairy goal and we came this close. Well, you don't bash everybody for losing.
You didn't lose.
You didn't lose.
Because you didn't hit the goal doesn't mean that you lost.
You didn't lose.
There's a
but
big
there
lesson
there has to be accountability to that feeling of we didn't achieve it. What we set out to do, we didn't achieve. Now, what is the difference between coming this close if we would have worked harder, if we would have stayed another hour for film? But then I'll move on
to into our conversation.
Wait. So Scott Frost, Nebraska was 214-0 when they scored 35 points, and now they're 214-1. That program's a mess, man.
Yeah.
So, those are proud people. There's not a lot else in Nebraska. So,
it's a different
now,
world.
here's the thing, though. He walks away with $15 million.
Yeah, the systems,
Yeah.
bro.
Where's the door? What time? Which door? What time?
You don't want me to coach the rest of the season? Okay, cool.
Wait a
You
minute,
paid
you know
me to
what?
do it, but all right.
I can't wait to screw up because then I get to spend $15 million.
Yeah.
I got all the time in the world. It's crazy.
So we'll move on. I'll touch on it real quick, but the Dolphins won. If you missed it, it was a big day in South Florida. They legitimately set the stadium on blaze. If you didn't see it, cars in the parking lot were on fire. Somebody left their stove on or the griller on. So be a little smarter. But I think you see two different philosophies playing out in front of us. You have Mike McDaniel, who probably runs a completely different system than how Bill Belichick wants to run it, in the way he deals with people, in the way he calls his offense, in the ways that he just kind of goes about it. It was cool to see the Dolphins play hard, but to me, there is no substitute for how good of a leader you are and then how much you invest in talent. I see that from the Dolphins. Like, we were very good. Have been a very good team for a couple years, solid 500. But you can't expect things to get better if you don't invest in your people and you don't change the way that you get out of them. If you are doing something, like I said, years after, and they're not giving it up to you, or the same problems are, arising, you have to try to do something differently. And I think Bill Belichick only knows how to do it one way. He's been very successful doing it one way. And I think as the game changes, it'll be interesting if he can morph his leadership ability to connect with players, to get the most out of them, which I think is
very
changing.
Interesting video of McDaniel in the locker room after the win yesterday. And the team, as he walks in, the team is giving him a standing ovation and cheering for him. And he's saying, no, 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 no. And they present him the ball. And the first thing he says is, I didn't do shit. This is your guys' win. He immediately put it all back on them and said, everybody's going to get a game ball for this one because we're going to be able to look back at this and say, this is where it started. This is where it all started. He made it about them, and everybody was trying to make it his moment, and it wasn't about him. It's not about him, and that's something that I think very few NFL coaches do at a high level, Mike Tomlin being one of them that does it unbelievably. But there's a master class in leadership of, you look at, like, I've been in the locker room with Jimbo where he's me. Look at me. Look at what we did. Look at what I did for you guys. And that shit doesn't last. So you might have gotten guys to a point, but if you really want to take your organization to the next level, you better be putting the spotlight on everybody else and not yourself.
So I love this dialogue, and I want to keep it going. The rest of the show I'll move to tomorrow because it's really good, and I want to give it its time to bake. But there were a couple of takeaways. Jonathan Aaron says if the guy makes a 20-yard field goal, that field goal kicker was named Auburn. So Auburn would have beaten Alabama, which would have been great, man.
So, and to me, that's so if you're looking at that, you're looking at the result. You're not looking at everything that happens up to that point. They shouldn't even be in that position. And they've been in that position time and time again. So it's a difference of what are you really looking at?
And probably the last thing, I just talking about kickers. Kickers had a very, this is my segment. Kickers have a very, very bad day yesterday.
Yeah, kickers
had a very bad day. If you're someone in your organization that only gets looked at for doing one job, better do it really freaking well, because when you do it badly, it's going to look very bad.
Right.
So I don't get it. The guy that played at Georgia, the guy with the glasses, was
Rodrigo.
the kicker?
Rodrigo Blankenship.
Yeah, Rodrigo Blankenship.
Like, everything was a goal.
Yeah.
And then, boom, he hits a duck. That was like, so the other thing is, so there's all this talk. Is two of the guys, is he not the guy? He's the only quarterback in the NFL that has beat Bill Belichick 4 times.
The only quarterback to go 4-0 against Bill Belichick and not have a loss against him as a starter. So that was great. And Scott Oglesby says, how about the Mountaineers? I mean, amen. And how about the offensive coordinator there, Kevin Barbay, who we had the opportunity to work with when we were a part of Jim McElwain's staff. Kevin is a great dude. And you want to talk about just people who deserve the things that happen to them. Like, that is a guy who studies the game, knows the game inside and out, and took advantage of his opportunities, and I hope goes and gets.
And that's a guy who prepared for the role before he had the role.
Right.
He sat in a lot of different roles, sat in the shadows, studying and working and asking. Like, I remember being a freshman and him coming up to me, he was like, "Hey, why are we doing this?" And I was like, why are you asking me this? I was really, but he was like, hey, I didn't sit in that meeting. Why are you guys doing this? And he tried to understand everything to such a granular level. So that
he would
when
break
he got
down
called,
third down on his own, like
he would bring in a sheet and be like, hey, here's like just a few ideas that I saw.
Here's some stuff that I saw. Like,
so there's another lesson that it's not about doing the job when you have the job.
Yeah.
It's about doing the job and preparing and showing people that they're prepared for it. And I think we talk about that a lot in our coaching. You know, in organizations, they're like, well, I don't do that. It's not my job. But that's the job you want. So when you show them.
And we were going to talk about F's today, which I wanted it to lead into that failure conversation, because there are a lot of teams that lost today, and all of those losses are failures. Let's make no mistake. If you didn't put the W in the win column, or you didn't put the mark in the win column, that's a failure. But Texas's failure is very different than Texas A&M's failure. And how you look at them and how you manage them and how you work through them, if you don't know how to do that, you're going to have a hard time being successful in any aspect of your life. Because if you just blanket statement, all failure is the same, and don't know how to process it and learn from it, you're going to miss out on so much opportunity.
So last question, and I point this to the both of you guys. The most storied franchise, the most successful in terms of financial, they're just the biggest, the best. They sell more merchandise, is the Dallas Cowboys, and they look like a complete shit show. Like, they didn't even have a backup quarterback. I mean,
Fish sinks from the head down.
Is it like malpractice that they mismanage the roster?
To me, the problem is Jerry Jones is doing interviews to the media after the game. Like, Dak Prescott gets hurt, and the first comment is from Jerry Jones saying, yeah, he's going to need surgery. Why is the owner who just spent the game in the box coming down to talk to the media? It's not the
exact same thing that's been happening since the mid-90s, right? Like, it's not, this isn't new. Like, if you look at from 1994 or whatever time they decided to part ways with Jimmy Johnson, right? That is the pinnacle of what could have been. So what do you got?
Scott Hogan.
Right, correct. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But I think that, to me, is Jerry Jones is refusing to hire the right people to let them do their job. He wants to be the focal point and the center of it all, and you can't do it. You just cannot do it. And so instead of hiring good people and allowing them to be good at what they do, he tries to be involved in everything. And that franchise will never reach the success or the potential they could have if they would have had a leader who just let Jimmy Johnson go build an unbelievable dynasty when they had the opportunity.
So lots of winners, lots of losers. It was great to see Mike Tomlin's team pull it out. You know, I mean,
so you want to talk about great organizations and great leadership?
Always puts a winner on the field. Always.
So there was a stat, and Jake, I don't know if you remember the actual stat, but Tomlin's name was put up there with Shula and Landry and a couple other NFL greats.
Yeah, Bill Belichick. Yeah, I forget.
It was something about a winning percentage. I forget what it was, but this is a guy who does not get his flowers, in my opinion. Like, he is hands down the best head coach in the NFL and probably has been for the last 10 years, yet people don't talk about it.
Right. And he took guys that couldn't play anywhere else. And
look at what he did with Antonio Brown. Look at the way he managed him as a human in order to get the best out of him for as long as he could. That, to me, is a master's class. And, you know, if you've never heard of him or don't know anything about him, go listen to the Pivot podcast and his episode about that. He talks about his willingness to be open and intimate with players, whether they want to or not. He goes, I can't control whether or not somebody wants to have that intimate relationship with me, but I got to be open to having it with everybody because that's my role as the leader. The guy is unbelievable.
Love it, love it, love it. Jake, thank you for a wonderful segment. I think next Monday we're all going to be looking forward. We won't even pack any other content. This is yours.
Mondays, baby. Let's do it.
The lessons were great. For those who want to recap, you know, leadership is something that can be learned. It's something that is about disciplines and knowledge. And, you know,
we will be teaching life through sport every single Monday. Thank you, Jake.
Love it, love it, love it. Gentlemen,
thank you guys.
We got work to do. Let's get down to business.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down to business. Give you one more night.